Hi, my name's Joseph Schmidt, and this is my first podcast. Although I guess it's really just a video. But, anyways, I'm going to be talking about school busing in a small rural school district that I work in. The reason why I'm interested in this is because after doing a couple of the units that we read in, talking about all the things that add to our school budgets, it just intrigued me how much we're spending. Getting kids to and from school, especially here in Minnesota where we have open enrollment and you could theoretically go anywhere within the state to get a student. Obviously, for practical purposes, that doesn't happen. But I talked to our uh, school bus guru who happens to handle all things financial in our district. And she informed me that our farthest school bus goes 55 miles. And when I heard that, I kind of remembered back to my days going to school in Sioux Falls at Cleveland Elementary and being the first kid to be picked up and the last kid to be dropped off. My bus ride was normally close to an hour each way, and it just made me think about these kids that are riding this school bus. Because 55 miles, that's one way direction, but of course, they're going to pick up other kids along the way. Um, that's a long time to be on a bus. Um, that student gets picked up at 6:35 in the morning. Our first bell rings at 8:05 in the morning. So they're on a bus for an hour and a half one way. Um, the district usually tries to follow a general rule that they don't want to pick up any students before 6:45, but because that student lives, beyond that by 10 minutes, I guess they made the exception. It is an open enrollment student. Um, again, theoretically, we could send buses anywhere. And I know here in the small town I live in, which isn't the small town that I teach in, it's not uncommon to see buses or vans from 3 or 4 different school districts picking up students. Um, I also asked about fuel prices, and of course, our finance person, bus person, told me that fuel prices, of course, last few years since they've been going up, the cost of running buses has been going up, and it's affecting our school's budget. Being a small district, pretty much everything affects our budget, but it does take a larger chunk out of our budget. Um, I asked a question about replacing buses. How does that affect our budget? Do we plan for it? Is so much set aside? Um, she actually told me that normally before COVID, what was happening is every 3 or 4 years they would replace a bus. But during COVID, no new buses were being built. So that whole 1 to 2 year period has really messed up our rotation. And a lot of districts are in the situation where they can't get a new bus yet, even though they've ordered one or possibly even paid for one. They're still waiting for that bus to be built. So just last year alone, we spent out of our budget $20,000 in repairs. And that might not sound like much, but when you only have 4 or 5 buses in your district, that is a lot of money. Um, that actually was on 2 buses to keep them on the road. Um, we have a spare bus, which is currently being used because one of the other buses broke down. Um, we've ordered a new bus and waiting for it. They've been waiting over a year for it to be built. The price of a new bus is $140,000. Everything, the cost of fuel, the cost of the buses themselves have gone up since COVID. And that really affects our school's budget and our ability. Uh, to pay for those things. Um, Biggest thing right now is drivers, is what she told me. Is we offer a very competitive salary, which is like 24 hours, $24 an hour, which sounds great, but you have to remember that those drivers are only driving an hour or two in the morning and an hour or two in the afternoon. So you really have to have a schedule that allows you to support driving a school bus. And most of those people are retirees. People have already retired from, or because we are rural, we have a lot of farmers that drive school buses, um, which is great during the wintertime, but during harvest and planting, you have to take that into consideration. I asked her about open enrollment and how that has affected our busing, and she said, "Yeah, it's affected our busing in that we send buses farther, but without open enrollment, our district probably would have closed, due to the fact that we've kept our student numbers to a level to where we can have one teacher per grade, and that's all we have." Um, so in closing, I'd just like to say, the busing situation for us, I just, with reductions in student population and having to send buses out farther and farther and farther, it just makes me think more about one of our discussion questions where there's got to be some sort of solution if we're going to keep these rural schools open. How do we go about doing that? Because the finances for those things that I'm a sixth grade classroom teacher, so I don't think about busing. I think about when my students sit down in my classroom. I know busing's there. I take it for granted that it's there, but you know, I have never thought about how do they pay for it? How does the buses make sure that they're replaced and they're functional and all those great things that we have to do to make sure the kids stay safe. So it's just another one of those things that as a potential future principal or superintendent that you got to be thinking about. Anyways, I've gone over my time, so I would just like to wrap it up by saying good luck and stay safe out there. Bye.